Welcome to the Age is Irrelevant podcast with your host, Helen Fritsch. Helen is a 60-plus lifelong competitive athlete, flight attendant, published fitness model, writer, IFBB bodybuilding pro, and certified wine specialist who believes that your age is irrelevant to pursue goals, dreams, and desires. Are you a woman in her 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond who still has a burning desire to pursue a dream or a passion? Are you thinking about starting a new chapter in your life, but you're hesitant, thinking that you might be too old or just don't know where to begin? The Age is Irrelevant podcast is a podcast devoted to women who want to defy the odds, smash barriers, and redefine happiness and success after 40. It's time to make a difference. There is no need to dread blowing out that added birthday candle every year. A new movement is slowly taking momentum, where being over the hill just isn't relevant anymore. Age labels are being thrown out the window, and women are rediscovering the strength within themselves to make a difference, not only within their own lives, but also touching and inspiring the lives of other women. Join Helen as she and her guests discuss all aspects of aging after 40 and how to make the aging process and those twilight years more rewarding, exciting, and fun.
Hello and welcome to the Age is Irrelevant podcast. I'm your host, Helen Fritsch. This is episode number 84. Now today I've had the pleasure of interviewing 70-year-old world record powerlifter Karen Hurley. Karen Hurley began setting records at her first powerlifting meet and at the age of 69 set her first official world record. This year at age 70, she's determined to set more state, national, and world records. In my conversation with Karen, she shares about how she got into weightlifting, what it's like to be an older female lifter, and most importantly, challenging oneself. She has a passion for horses and has been riding since 47. She's married, the mom of 2 young adult sons. She worked as a mental health professional for over 40 years, during which she started programs and mentored many people in clinical skills and leadership. And today, she enjoys being retired along with her powerlifting. A great conversation, very thought-provoking. I'm a huge fan of the universe and how it's always looking out for you. It always has your back, and it's always providing for you. And Karen is one of those open mindset people, always being aware of what's going on and being receptive to what the universe has to offer. Her story is really interesting on how she even got into powerlifting, considering she was never an athlete in her younger years. I think you'll really enjoy this interview as much as I enjoyed interviewing her. And here we go. Hi, Karen. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Helen. How are you today?
I am so awesome. I'm so thrilled to talk to you. I know my listeners are going to love hearing this conversation. For my listeners, I'm talking to Karen Hurley. Karen Hurley is 70 years old. She is an international elite world record holder in powerlifting. She's been in the weight room for about 10 years, and I'm a big universe person. I think things always happen for a reason, and I think we have to keep our peripheral vision wide open. And when you talked about how at one point your trainer left, that you were looking for something different, and you came across a powerlifting gym, and that set you on a whole new course. And we're here today to talk about how you got started, being 70 years old and being a world record holder, state, national, champion, and just life in general. So I always like to start off in the beginning. And so where were you born, and talk about your childhood a little bit.
Okay. So Helen, first thing is I love your podcast, and I love the message that you're carrying for women. Age is irrelevant. It's to be light. The way I say it is to be lightly regarded.
I like that.
It's very much to be lightly regarded, and it's good to have a healthy disregard for it. In particular, as we set limits on ourselves, and as external forces, social forces set limits on us about age. In that way, it is completely irrelevant. Anybody can try anything and do anything. And you know, it's really a message that you're promoting. I love it. The women that you've had on your pod are amazing. And I was blown away by Tanya Holder. Oh my, Tanya Holder, the walker. Holy smokes.
Yolanda, yeah.
Yolanda, right, Yolanda. Yeah. She walked from Corona to Las Vegas.
Unbelievable, right?
Yeah, that's wild. Okay. Anyway, so I was born in California, Central Valley, a very agricultural area, farm family. My mother was born and raised in California. My father and my mother's folks came from Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, and before that, Ireland, England, and there's a little bit of Native American thrown in there because those Irish and English farmers came to town, and you know what I mean? That whole melting pot of thing that happened back then. I have a brother. We were raised, my dad is a cement mixer driver. My mother was a bookkeeper her whole life. They both worked. I think the ethic or the thing that I really appreciate that I got from my parents and from my life as a child was to have a strong work ethic, and that pays off when you are able to focus and work. And the message that it's really always a good idea to do unto others as you would want them to do to you. Mm-hmm. And I think those two things have guided me. As I reflected on this conversation we're going to have, I thought, you know, what is it that really has been the song in my ear through my life? And I would have to say those two things have really led me along in a good way,
No, I agree with that. My father was also a very hard worker, and he instilled in my brother and sister and I've always been a hard worker. I've always had good values and, you know, morals and good ethic. And I just think, I think that generation you couldn't help but, you know, turn into that. Personally speaking. Yeah,
super strong. Those post-generation babies really have that ethic strong, if they do. And, you know, you can overgeneralize, but if they do, and many do as a generation, they certainly do. And, you know, lucky me, that was imparted to me. My dad died at the age of 69. Which I actually will be 70 in May. So I'm just now having that experience of, okay, I'm the same age my dad was when he died, you know, and there's no comparison to his health to mine. I'm not concerned about dying particularly, but it is a moment. I didn't think it was a thing, but it is kind of a moment. Mm-hmm. My mother lives today. She'll be 92 in April.
Fantastic.
And she's so healthy. She's, you know, she's 92, but she is healthy. She's not on medication. She gets around. She takes care of a horse, you know, cleaning pens and feeding. And he's her, they're each other's mutual support system. My brother's horse, she lives in a place near them, and it's pretty good. It's a pretty good role model. I like it.
I'm sure she must be so proud of you. That's just incredible.
It's a mixture of absolute being terrified and proud, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I was not an active child, Helen, I have to tell you. I was not. I mean, I like to get out and run around, and I would play football in the street with the boys, and we would play army at night, running around, you know, ninja and all that kind of stuff. But as far as organized sports or athletics, no, not at all.
I have so many guests who never started their fitness journey until their 50s or 60s.
Yeah, completely.
And it was by chance.
Yeah, and the minute, you know, what was it, 2-3 years ago, my coach handler referred to me as an athlete, and I'm like, who are you talking about? You know, I just like, that's not a frame that I ever put myself in, that I'm an athlete. But today I can own it. I can for sure own it now. But boy, that was really foreign.
Wow.
Really foreign.
So what about school? Did you go to college?
Mm-hmm. I never participated in organized sports. You know, I was more interested in boys and music and hanging out and that sort of thing. I have this funny little story about how I came to my career. When I was in 6th grade, they used to give you an aptitude test. Now, mind you, that was like 1965 or 63, somewhere in there. we took these little aptitude tests, and it said that I had an aptitude for social service type work. I don't even know what that was. So that kind of landed on me in a way like, oh, okay, that's interesting. So then I go on, I finish high school, and I go to junior college, and absolutely at that point, I'm going to be a sociology major. And then I took my first psych class. I'm like, oh my, here we are. This is the one. And so from that point on, that's really what I wanted to do. I wanted to study psychology. I wanted to, eventually, as I got into it and came to understand the different aspects of it, research versus clinical versus teaching, that I wanted to be a therapist and go down the clinical route. So bachelor's degree, master's degree, in California, not every state, but in California at a master's level, you can get a licensed marriage family therapist. MFT is the licensing. And then you can do private practice. And that's what I did. I did private practice, and I worked for the local public service agency, mental health department, since, well, I got my license in 84, but I started working at the public agency at 78 as a paraprofessional, like before I got my education and my degrees and stuff, or my license. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, it's just a lifelong career. And I have to say, going back to that generational thing again, it is true for me that as a child of the 60s, I was inspired by public service. You know, that was a big thing with John Kennedy and Sergeant Shriver, the Peace Corps and all that, and the honor of being a public servant. And I do have a public servant's heart. I thought it was a privilege and an honor to work in public service. I have known so many people over the years in my role as a clinical person, a program coordinator, a project manager, a project developer, all these different things that I had the pleasure to do. A couple of things really mattered to me in that. One is the people who saw something in me and mentored me and encouraged me to do things that I didn't know I could do. Write grants, run a FEMA project when we had a flood disaster here. That sort of thing. And then the people that I was then able to turn around and mentor, people who in the programs I was running, they were what we call baby clinicians, you know, in their education process, getting ready to be clinicians. Some of them working as paraprofessionals, say in drug and alcohol, and they themselves are in recovery and wanting to contribute and give back. Mm-hmm. And I had such a great career to have that opportunity to be contributed to, and to contribute back to others. And that's not even to say anything, all the people that we served who had serious mental illness and in some cases, co-occurring substance abuse issues. And to see people who were so down and out and so ill find their path to recovery. Two things became clear, and I used to tell my staff this all the time. You don't know who will make it to recovery and have it last. You don't know. And you don't know what another person's path to recovery looks like. It can look to you like they're not going to make it, or they're hopeless, or whatever. They're not. You don't know. So stick with it. Keep setting the table for them to come and to engage in a conversation for their own recovery and their own responsibility for their health. It can happen. Recovery is possible.
I love that. Set a table continuously.
It gives me chills just to recite it to you. It's been a while since I've been retired a few years, and I haven't, been in those relationships for a while, but it's so real for me. It's such an important part of my life.
I love that. That's great. How long did you said you're retired now, so how long did you do this for?
Well, I started in 78, and I finally retired completely in 2001.
Okay.
So that's a lot of years, 40 some odd years.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of different things, and, I just had a lot of fun, trainings and mentorings. And
and I imagine how rewarding that would be. And I think the diversity that you probably see that came through your doors also too. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of times you can't judge a book by its cover. So, a lot of things that you see on the outside have nothing, it has no reflected of what's going on in the inside.
You really can. And I'm wearing a t-shirt. I'm going to raise up and just show you. I know your listeners can't see it, but I want you to see this t-shirt. It says, check your assumptions.
Uh-huh.
It's from a Facebook group that I'm in, Old Ladies Lift.
Uh-huh.
And the gal that runs it, it's a really great group for any older athletes, whether they're powerlifters or CrossFitters or whatever. It's a terrific Facebook group. A gal named Chandler Mars runs it, and she runs a tight ship. So it's not judgmental, and it's super supportive, and there's a lot of great gals in there. And going back to what we were just talking about, checking your assumptions about people based on what you see it's a really good practice because you just don't know. You just can't tell. You don't know.
Especially in today's world where, people can be so judgmental at times.
Well, sure. I mean, human beings are kind of judging and evaluating machines, aren't they? I mean, that's kind of what we do. And I think that there are so many, what do they call it? Unconscious biases that we have that are based on lessons learned, experience we've had, things we've been taught, things people have said to us, that this is where the idea of being, rather than judgmental, to be more curious about people is a good practice. It's a good practice as well. To be curious. I like
that.
Like when I encounter, I've practiced this a bit, but I'm not always on it. So, you see a person and then you kind of notice, when you're aware, you notice this thought bubbles up. And then that thought is maybe, oh, I better lock my car door, or I better watch out, or some kind of cautionary thing comes up. You know how this happens all the time. And then if I'm really being aware and taking time, I think, well, wonder why I thought that, because, and then what I find is it's social messages, and it's stereotypes, and it's things about that kind of person that are kind of out there. Is that true about that person? I don't know. Do I have time to find out? Well, not today, but when I do, it's better to be more curious. The other thing about being more curious as a person in life is there's less fear associated with being curious. When we are, like you said, judging and evaluating and finding people scary or threatening in a way. And I'm not saying we should ignore people that are scary or threatening, or we should be foolish or careless. No, of course not. Yet there's not that much of that going on around most of us where we live. So, we have to, I don't want to overgeneralize here, but there's this thing that you're talking about, which is, sure, we judge and evaluate. And when we do that, it's usually because there's some fear or something involved there. And I don't know. I don't want to live my life afraid.
No, I agree.
I don't want to live my life afraid.
That's true.
So,
yeah. That's a good way to think about things.
So people should check their assumptions.
Yeah.
Long story short, people should check their assumptions.
Right. So talk to me about your family.
My family now, I have a husband of, 42 years, I think. Good match. He's also works in mental health. He's a licensed marriage family therapist. We were together 12 years, and then our sons arrived. I was 39 and 41 when I became a mom. And now here we are 30 years later. I've got this year a 30 and a 28-year-old. And none of them are interested in powerlifting. None of them are interested in horseback riding. So, they do their thing and I do mine. The good thing is living in a house full of men, they're all, the boys are out now, but when they were coming up, living in a house full of men, as messy as that is, they were all always working to support me to, pursue my hobby.
That's
horseback
great.
riding. Yeah, horseback riding. I started at 47. My youngest son at the time was 5, And the whole reason I found it is because I took him and I thought, well, maybe that would be for him. He would like that. Because, I didn't know very much about it. I had never been around horses, I'm not one of those girls who always wanted a horse or a pony or whatever. But I thought, well, I was aware that was a thing. So I took him for lessons. And mind you, at the time, I was quite a bit heavier and quite unfit. And I sat on the hay bale outside the arena watching him take his lesson and learn to groom the horse and clean the feet and all the things that they do. And all of a sudden I'm like, maybe I should try that. And this other little voice is like, don't be stupid. No. No. And there's fear and there's the unknown and there's no. And then the thought persisted. Yeah, maybe I should try that. And then, this is going to sound very peculiar, but if you're a horse person, anybody listening who's a horse person will get this like that. And then I got the smell of the horse in my nose and in my blood, and I couldn't get it out.
Mm-hmm.
So shortly, I took lessons and on a lesson horse, and I was like, this is pretty cool. And not too long after that, I came home and I said to my husband, I think I'm going to have to buy a horse. He's like, what? What? He said, can't you ride someone else's? And I said, I don't think I'm going to be able to get enough riding time on somebody else's horse, because that's not generally a thing. He's like, holy smokes. Okay. I don't know. I think it was 2 months after I took my first lesson, I bought a horse. That was 2000, the year 2000. And here we are, 2023, and been riding and I do trail riding. There's lots of disciplines and lots of things you can do with horses, but my passion always had to do with trail riding, being out in nature. Been a lot of fun places in California. There's a terrific national park in Marin County, Point Reyes National Seashore. Very horse friendly, great trails. They have a campground, but there's also a bed and breakfast nearby. I've been up there lots of times with groups of girls and just riding out, and you can see wildlife and wildflowers and the ocean and the view. My Facebook page is full of pictures of Point Reyes. And then down south and near San Luis Obispo, there's a state park, Montaña de Oro. Fabulous campground, great place. Very horse friendly also. So yeah, it was sort of like, if I were a more ambitious walker like Yolanda, I probably would hike on my own feet, but these were places that I wouldn't want to hike to, so horseback riding was perfect. And there was no more serene feeling for me than just being outside in nature on a horse.
I agree with that. I go to Colorado quite a bit. I have friends in Vail, and we've gone horseback riding out there several times, and it's just riding, these trails. And, the horses pretty much do this, day in and day out, several times a day. And it's kind of funny, especially around their feeding time, where they're like wanting to veer off because they know it's like time to go home or whatever. But the serenity out there and being able to be, breathing that fresh air and taking in all the beautiful scenery. It really is. It's such a calming effect. It's just really like Mother Nature sometimes can be so overwhelming.
It is. And the other part of that for me that's very soul feeding is horses are amazing. The horses, I've had 4 or 5 really good horses, and they are so kind and so generous. Now, there are horses that aren't. In general, a relationship with a horse is the most precious thing. They are so willing for us with such big hearts to go. We're gonna ask them to get in a box with wheels and barrel down the road through the Bay Area, over the Richmond Bridge. Do you know what I mean? In all this traffic. We're going to ask them to do that and stand quietly while we do that. And they do. And they do. And we're going to ask them to, just do all these things. And it's just such a special relationship. I can be having the worst day ever, and if I can get out and get on a horse, I can turn it around. It's not unlike getting out in the weight room. And the thing that the two for me have in common is that, with powerlifting, with horseback riding, you can only do that one thing at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else has to take a back seat. With horses, you have to be present. They know if you're not, they know if you're afraid, they know if you're not present. You have to be there for it, because it's not going to go well if you're not there. You can't just be a passenger, right? Same thing with powerlifting. You need to be there. I mean, when you squat a heavy lift, you think you're going to die anyway because it's so heavy. And you have to be there. I have had more than a few days when I was distracted or worried about something or overthinking, and some bobble happened. I've never hurt myself badly. I did once dump a bar over my head.
Ooh.
I got too far forward and I couldn't get back up, and it was heavy, and I had to dump the bar on the safeties. And, you have to be there for your own safety.
Mm-hmm.
And so the effect of having to be present for these two things just is, I don't know, it's just good for a human to be present and to be focusing on one thing, whatever that thing is.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I love that byproduct of it. I have to think for me that's part of the attraction. That's part of the love of it, is what the process provides me spiritually as a person. Yeah.
That's great. I have a close friend at work who also, she's a horse farm, always posting pictures. She's in South Carolina of her horses. And we actually went down there one day for horseback riding. And it's amazing to see the relationship with her, and every different horse, sees her and they come running over. And even we think we went in the spring. So there was some new youngins out there and in the pasture, and oh my God, so cute.
They are so cute.
So cute.
Yeah.
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 Really, really cool.
Awesome.
So let's talk about how you got into weightlifting.
Okay. As I mentioned before, I was pretty heavy, for some women, not everybody, but for some women, when you have little kids, and I was a stay-home mom for just a minute or two there, and, you're not very active, you're taking care of kids, but you're eating the food off their plate, you're making, I wasn't paying attention to anything but being a mom, because by the time I figured out I finally wanted to be one, that's the only thing I wanted to focus on. And I just packed on the pounds. And, I have been a cycle dieter anyway, my whole life. So starting as a young teenager, it's like diet, stop dieting, it's diet. It's like a merry-go-round. Get on, get off, get on, get off, get on, get off, get off like that, back. But I had kind of lost my way is how I'd say. I had kind of really wandered off the path. And I was up from where I am now, I don't know, close to up to 50 pounds heavier and pretty soft. So horseback riding led me to, think I need to lose some weight here. I need to lose some weight because, it's literally thought of it. It's not fair to the horse. I don't have to weigh this much, and we're going to go out. And I need to, here's the thing about functional fitness too. You need to be able, if you're going to go out on trail, you need to be able to get up on your horse from the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes a certain amount of core strength and leg strength. And so it kind of comes down to the functional aspect of being successful in horseback riding. So I started going to one of the big diet organizations that has meetings and whatnot. And I would go to the meetings and weigh in every day, every Saturday, and, stick to that pretty good. But me, the way things work for me, life always, I can frame it in two ways. I can say I'm a really slow learner, and I've said that a lot because it took me 5 years to take off 75 pounds. Or I can frame it this way. I can say, it took me 5 years. I got that weight off. I had all along the way, I kept including life and, progressing, and sometimes I'd go 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and sometimes it would go forward. Eventually I got to a goal weight. And the first thing I did when I got to my goal is I thought, well, how am I going to maintain this? Because that's the part that really is the vexing part. There's not a diet organization out there that wants you to maintain because they want to keep their hand in your pocket for more diets, right? So being the independent thinker that I am and the determined soul, I'm like, how can I keep this weight off? Oh, I'll just go to work for the diet organization. So I did that.
Oh, wow.
So I worked for them for 5 years and I kept the weight off. So there I am. I'm looking at 10 years of maintaining these habits and a solid 5 years of keeping the weight off. So then I kind of got done with that. And all the while in here, I'm starting to, like, I got to a certain point in that weight loss journey and I had about probably 20-ish pounds to go. And I was starting to understand, because I'm a reader and I'm a curious person, and lots of diet books. I heard somebody talking to you the other day about all the diet books that she has. Oh, and I'm like, yeah, I've read all those diet books. So I understood that I needed to do more specific exercise to increase metabolism. Because you can only not eat so much. It's only going to get you so far. And then you're not going to be able to eat more or, if you don't move more. So move more became the thing. And so I joined a gym. Well, I didn't actually start with joining a gym. I actually started with, I want to buy a treadmill. And the bargain I made with myself was I want to buy a treadmill, but it can't be a coat rack or a clothing rack. So I said, if I gave myself a goal, if you walk X number of days or times or whatever for this amount of time, then we can buy a treadmill. And I did that. And then I bought a treadmill. And then I used the treadmill. And again, then I started thinking, well, I'd like to join a gym, but I had joined gyms before and not used the memberships. We would go and my friends and I would go and do a few cardio classes. I was kind of a dabbler at that point. But if I use this treadmill concertedly for a year, I said to myself, then I would join a gym because it would be like this earning it aspect of it. I think it's the sideways application of that work ethic thing again. It's like you set a thing, you set a goal, you work at it, and then you get to do the next thing. The reward comes. But the day that I walked into that gym, it was a women's gym, one of these large commercial gyms. And this was a smaller one that they had, and it was all women. And so I could only start there because I was so self-conscious and so, kind of embarrassed. And I walked in there to the front desk and I said, I need somebody to teach me to work out. I started crying. I felt so vulnerable and just so wide open and kind of embarrassed because I just had forgotten anything I'd ever known. And they were just so good. It was so good. I will never forget the woman behind the counter, Amy, young lady, super sweet. The manager, Paula, and they just said, "No worries, we got you." And they signed up, hooked me up with a trainer, Geneva, and she taught me how to work out. And then Geneva left and Teresa showed up and there became my crazy mad love for my trainer for close to 10, 15 years. We worked together and she's the one who really introduced me to my strength. I would go work out with her at that gym just, 2-3 times a week. We would do strength stuff. She pushed me. She had me do things I never thought I could do. And it just got to be fun. I kind of got hooked on that. Yeah. And that was from the age of about 52 to around 65. Then she went off she finished her education and went off to be an epidemiologist. So I was flogging around looking for the next thing. And I went to visit with my friend in another town, and I trained with her and her trainer. And we didn't do powerlifting stuff, but we did the kind of things they do like at CrossFit, like sled drags and ball slams and this kind of gritty, and it was hot. And I was looking around and I noticed concrete floors and I noticed weight racks. And I had seen some of this stuff before, but not ever I didn't even really know that kind of gym existed. but I caught the vibe. And then I came home and I started looking, like you said, you're looking in Scottsdale for a powerlifting gym. I just got online, started looking, and I found one, I don't know, a mile and a half from my house. And so I went over there one day and talked to the owner and met the trainers and some of the people. And they said, we're having a intro to powerlifting class 3 nights a week. Do you want to join? And I'm like, yeah, I can do that. So that's how it started, literally. I wandered in. And, I feel like I kind of backed into all of it in a way, or wandered in a way. I mean, it depends on how you want to frame it. You can say I had a value and a determination to be healthier, because one of the reasons I started the strength training is because I had definitely gotten the memo about muscle loss. Sarcopenia is a thing. And once I learned that you can burn more calories sleeping if you have more muscle than you can if you lose muscle. At the time, I wore one of those biometric devices called the Body Bug. They used to use them on The Biggest Loser. And that little sucker told you how many calories you burned every minute. And I could see overnight that sometimes I was burning 0.7 calories, right? And just that, like, light bulb went off. And so I thought, well, I need not lose any muscle. I need to keep gaining muscle if I can, or at least stay level. So that's when I actually went for training, heavier weight training, working with Teresa, the trainer that I had for so long. And that's when we really started going at it. The other thing I did at that time was I went for a DEXA scan, because, I kind of like that biometric vibe and knowing things. I still wear a Fitbit, because I want to know how many steps I take.
Mm-hmm, me too.
And so I did that DEXA scan, and that was my baseline. 10 years later, I did another one, and I had gained muscle, about 10 pounds of muscle, in a time between 52 and 62, when normally I would have probably lost close to that much.
Right.
So, I was sold right there. That was confirmation that I was doing the right thing. And then I wander into powerlifting, and it just fits. So, I mean, it's all connected. But did I set out for that path? I did not. I just had, I have this idea about life and things that you care about, that if you set a big enough future, like somewhere back there, I said, I want to age well. I want to be healthy. Even further back, maybe as a teenager, I think I said to myself, I want to be a person of consequence in the world. I want to contribute. I want to make a difference. So when you have that kind of, the way I talk about it is like this big future that you've cast forth. These are the things I'm committed to in my life. Then that's just out there. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to remind yourself. You don't have to hold it. It's just out there. And then you make all these choices on the way, right? And not everything matches up, and some things don't work out, but that's okay, because on the way to that big future, there's successes and failures and breakdowns and breakthroughs and like that. So it works out that way. That's the most empowering way I know of to think about life and living and fulfilling what we say we're committed to. So,
no, I agree with everything that you're saying. And I think a lot of times, especially with women over 50, sometimes we have a tendency to, as we age, our peripheral vision, like I mentioned earlier, the blinders start coming into the point where all we're seeing is like this narrow pathway, and we're missing out on so much. And I keep telling, I had a couple of friends, and this was back years ago when some things were happening. And I literally said to them, this is the universe handing you this opportunity on a silver platter. I said, why are you slamming the door? Why can't you see this? I don't understand. It's just, I forgot how many choices, thousands and thousands of choices that we make every day, our brain. And I look back at my life and, just like you said, ups and downs, tragedy, heartache, all kinds of things. But I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for all that, because it's made me the person that I am today. And I just am a firm believer in just being so open and available to see what the universe has in store for you. Because if you are, in my opinion, God, the universe, has your back and wants you to succeed. And I think that, that little cliche, we are who we are because of the choices that we make is, entirely true. So I think it sounds like you've had a very open and receptive life, and that, things, came upon you through opportunity or fell into your lap, and you recognized that and you were able to take from that versus just, walking by and say, I'm not going to get on this exit. I'm going to wait for the next one.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. That's a fair assessment. I think I would also add it in for people that are listening to this, which is not a perfect life, not a perfect person. There's plenty of things I've passed up on. I mean, I got a good long list of things I would never do, like hard pass on that. You know what I mean? So everybody's crafting their own path the way they are. Some of it's very consciously, some of it's very unconsciously, some of it's purely by happenstance and accident. Things happen to you and then you make a choice and then you go forward from that. One of the things that I think I'm pretty fearless, I think, there's not a lot of, let me put it a different way. Out of respect for people who are in circumstances that they can't control and it's tragic and overwhelming, I have to say, in my life, I've had bad things happen, but nothing that was absolutely life-altering, life-destroying. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I have to really, for myself and my own integrity, I have to say to you, we're having this conversation out of having had, I would say, fairly privileged lives, without all the various terrible things that can influence a person's life who lives with less privilege. We can only have this conversation that we have about food and eating and our relationship to food because we have plenty. That never leaves my mind or my heart, that the life that I have lived is a privileged one. And I've been lucky and I've worked hard, but that it goes without saying that I am a white heterosexual woman who lives in the United States, and that's a thing. And there are a lot of people that don't enjoy those privileges, and they have great lives too. And, it's different. So, I think that's important to acknowledge, to be inclusive.
Right. I agree. 100%.
Yeah.
So when you first started weight training, I know this happened to me. I was an athlete my entire life, but when
That's amazing, by the way.
Oh, thanks. When I got into bodybuilding, though, at age 56, and literally decided to commit to doing a show, the changes that I saw rather quickly, actually, were just, overwhelming. The body, this is such a fascinating machine. So talk to me about your experiences when you first started lifting and things that you started seeing and all the changes and how that influenced you.
I didn't even, I think the first thing is that I didn't know how strong I was. I just didn't know. And just learning that it was possible for me to, I remember the first time I deadlifted, I think it was 195. I was in tears. I burst into tears. I was so excited and so blown away by the fact that I did that. So to try to answer your question specifically, I think the thing that happened for me is that I began to develop this profound relationship with what my body could do that I had never explored before. And I do remember in my early 40s going to a intuitive eating workshop, because boy, I've done a ton of workshops too and read a lot of books. And I do remember having the experience there of tuning into my body. We did this little exercise and tuning in and listening. And what I say that I heard was my body requesting from me to be more physical. You know how those thoughts kind of bubble up and you think, oh, where'd that come from? Well, I framed it as my body is a request for more exercise, more, right? So that was there, but I hadn't done that much with it. And so here then I'm learning powerlifting, which is completely different than just strength training. I mean, holy smokes, I had done bench press before, but the bench presses I was doing when I was just training was nothing like what I was learning to do. I don't know if I had ever done just a free squat, maybe a Smith machine squat, but holy smokes, there's so much to pay attention to. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know, the most profound things, I just didn't know that my body would do those things. And, initially I was pretty sore and tired. It was exhausting. Oh my God. It was it's hot here in where I live in the summer. And I started in August and the classes were in the afternoon. And of course, these gyms aren't air conditioned. They're not, they're warehouses. It was exhausting. So I would work, go home, take a nap, eat, go train, and it was just exhausting. So two things happened with my body. One is I really understood what fatigue was, and I really also began to understand what real hunger is. Because if you train and power lift, you must eat. Mm-hmm. You have to. You can't not eat. Because if you don't, you're not going to have anything to work with. You don't have any material to work with. You're done. And so that whole aspect of my life began to change because I had to eat. And I was, again, I mentioned the diet merry-go-round thing. I would not eat. My protein consumption wasn't even close to what it needed to be. Not even close.
So many women that I work with, clients over 50 and over 60, I normally ask them to give me 3 days of eating. I'm like, I'm not judging you. I just want to see how much you're eating. I want to see what your different macro counts are. And no female I've worked with up to this point eats enough protein. And no female that I've worked with up to this point initially was eating enough food. And it was amazing that these women who wanted to lose 20 or 30 pounds, who would start eating so much more and then training 5 days a week. And then they're like, oh my God, my energy's through the roof. I can't believe I'm eating more food and losing weight. I mean, it was just, I was like giddy because I knew it was going to happen. And every single person, it was just like mind blowing to them that they were eating all this food and all of a sudden they're feeling better, stronger, more energy. And then they're losing weight at the same time.
It knocks me out how much difference it makes in my energy level and mood when I'm properly nourished. Mm-hmm. And that is really one of the great gifts of powerlifting to me, for sure. Because I don't know, it just tuned up everything. Powerlifting did. It tuned up my physical being. It tuned up. I used to have a lot of aches and pains and excuse me. I just don't have it anymore. I mean, what the powerlifting has done, just all the accessory work and the lifting and just all of it has strengthened every muscle, every tendon, every soft structure around the joints, and a lot of the aches and pains that I used to have. And I'm not saying I don't still have some, but the way I move in my body today is with strength and ease and comfort, and I love it. And if I could bottle that and give it to people, even a fourth of that, I would do it because it is worth it. It is worth it. And it doesn't take very much. At my age, it doesn't take very much for me to get in touch with how it used to be. All I have to do is sit on the couch for a couple hours, scrolling my phone, reading a book or whatever. And then when I go to stand up, I'm like, oh man, because things get cold and stiff, right? Mm-hmm. And then I'm reminded that doesn't really work for me. They say sitting is the new smoking. It's that damaging to your health. So I just remind myself that there's a place for sitting and resting, and I probably should rest more than I should because I kind of prefer to be up moving around. But the up moving around part keeps me feeling good, and keeps my brain and my thoughts working correctly. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so when did you decide to start to compete?
Oh, oh gosh. You talked to somebody recently. Oh no, I was listening to another podcast that was listening to this girl, but everybody says the same thing. All these older lifters, they say what I'm going to say, which is, well, I started at this gym. There was a competition scheduled. I started in August 2018. There was a competition scheduled for May of 2019 in this gym. And so they've done competitions and they've been in it for a while, and they're all, "Oh, are you going to compete?" And I'm like, hard no. I'm not getting up there in that outfit you wear. I didn't even know what it was called. It's a singlet. Some people call it a sausage casing. I will not be getting up in front of people. Plus, I wasn't confident yet. I didn't know anything. So I hadn't only been at it for a few months. And no, I won't be doing that. I'm not afraid to get up in front of people. I've done it my whole life, speaking, teaching, all these different things, but this would be different. I've never performed as an athlete before. Mm-hmm. It kind of goes back to that thing you were saying, like athletes in all the various things that they do, especially individual athletes, you're there, and you're the one, and you're gonna perform, and you're gonna compete for yourself. Never done that. So that was all very unfamiliar, very much a skinny branch kind of experience for me. When you get out on the skinny branches of the tree, you're pretty sure you're going to fall and hurt yourself. So time went on, and I kept working the program, working the training. And somewhere around February, I went to a meet just to see what it was like. And I was, again, blown away by a couple of things. One is there was a woman there, I think she was in her late 50s, and a bunch of other women in different ages, and of course, many men. At that time, there was probably about, I'd say 20 or 25% of the roster would be women. Now it's more. But at that time, it was probably right around that. But I just stood and watched, and I had a million questions. And the other great thing was that everybody who was there in the audience was so helpful. I mean, the community of powerlifting, in my experience, sure, there's exceptions. There's people everywhere that aren't friendly and aren't helpful. But in my experience, then and since, everybody was so helpful. I would be like, why did that person get 3 red lights instead of 3 white lights? What does that mean? What are they doing? And people just around rooting for their friends would educate me. And I just stood there, and it was a little bit like the horse thing. I kind of went, I could do that. Yeah, I think I could do that. Mm-hmm. So I went home, and I talked to my coach trainer, and I said, I think I want to do that meet. He's like, okay. So he wrote a prep plan for me. And at that time, I was, I don't know, probably 12 weeks out-ish. So I had a 12-week prep, and I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea what I was doing. He wrote it on the paper. I did it. Sometimes we were together. Sometimes I was separate from him. I just did what it was. I just kind of turned it over to him. He's still my trainer today. He has been from day one, and he's my guy. He's my guy. I was scared to death that first meet. I did not know what I was doing. I had a couple of friends there and my husband, and my friends were terrified, and they were looking at him like, is he going to make sure you don't get hurt? I'm like, it'll be fine. Don't worry. It'll be okay. And he just talked to me in my ear. He walked me through it. He was just this like velvet glove, he didn't baby me, but he was just like this velvet glove directing me and, tweaking what we needed to do. And it was a great experience. I think my first meet, I went 8 for 9, I think. I got 8 out of 9 lifts. Now I have to say that my numbers were amazing compared to where I'm at now. I have my little book here. My opening squat was 143.3. That's 64.9 kilos. Well, 143.3 for me now is like my first warm-up set. Isn't that funny?
Mm.
And that was 2019, and this is just 2023.
Yeah.
It's amazing. My opening bench was 99.2. That's 44.9 kilos. And now, my bench is not as impressive, I have to say, as my squat and my deadlift. But I mean, 99 is like a first or a second warm up for me. My opening deadlift was 220 and a half, 100 kilos. And for sure, that's like a second warm up number. I mean, I set state records my first meet, partly because I did good, but also because there wasn't anybody. A little bit of a unicorn, I felt like, because those records were open. Nobody had ever done that in my age, in my weight class. And so there you are. I'm hooked. I'm there. I'm doing it. I'm hooked. The crowd went crazy. One of the best things too about it, at the end, this is the first time I had this experience. A man came up to me and he said, "I was here today for my friend watching." He said, "But my wife came with me and she saw you and she's inspired that she wants to try it." I'm like,
that's
awesome. Cool. That's worth it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Did I even answer your question?
Oh yeah, you did. It's the same thing happened with me with I had 4 weeks to prep for a show. Of course, I laugh now because I take 12 to 16 weeks to prep for a show now. Didn't know what I was doing. I felt like a rat in a maze. Got up there and I was in a 35 category, plus category, and I was 56 in this little thong bikini and 5-inch heels, like a deer in the headlights, walking around on stage in front of 500 strangers. But I came in third. And I was like, awesome. I love the transformation in just a month. And I thought, if this happens in a month, what's going to happen in 2 months or 3 months or 6 months or a year?
Yeah. And
I just continued and continued.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. And so on my 60th birthday, I won a big national show and turned pro. And, 65 now. I'm the oldest pro masters bikini competing athlete in the world right now.
That's amazing.
But the whole, this whole weightlifting thing and all these bodybuilding shows, all the promoters now are adding 50, 55, 60 plus categories. I was in the inaugural 60 plus category because we asked for it. And they said, well, if you can provide X amount of athletes to be in the show, we'll do it. And we did. And it was just so gratifying now that even in the amateur national show last year, there was 14 women in that 60 plus category.
Wow, that's a lot. I mean, I think that's a trend, don't you? I think it's a trend.
It is.
I don't think it's a flash in the pan. I don't think it's accidental. I think there's an actual trend with women getting into these various sports that have been largely male dominated over the years. There's always been women bodybuilders. I suppose there's always been women bodybuilders and lifters, but now it's quite expanded. And
it really is addicting to see your body not only change for the better, but for you to feel better, and all the other things, and going off medications and having more energy and having a better attitude and better mood, and there's so many pluses of good health.
Sure.
What's your diet like?
Well, I learned how to count macros, and I work with Kristen Lander at Fiercely Fueled. She's a power lifter and she coaches strength athletes. And she's taught me a lot about paying attention to my macros and how I feel and adjusting, how you do all that. For me, what I eat is very much connected to that merry-go-round process that I spent so many years dieting and not dieting and that self-deprivation stuff. I had to do some pre-work, which I did do in 2015, 16, 17, 18. In there, I worked with Krista Scott Dixon at Precision Nutrition. And what I did there first wasn't so much about what I eat, what I ate, but my relationship to food and how I ate. So the process of it. So I did a lot of what I call completing issues about deprivation and what are they, that restricted eating and all the food rules and all that. They have this great saying, which is if food rules, I can't think of it right now. If restricted eating is the wicked witch, then the flying monkeys are food rules or something like that. There's this really, really cute saying they have. Anyway, so I've worked on it a ton. Where I'm at now is I give myself permission. I don't cut hard. I keep my walking around weight close to where I compete. I compete in 90 kilogram and 100 kilogram weight class in USPA. So that puts me at the cutoff point is 198.2. So I sit right around there, depending on which competition, which records I'm going for. So that lets me eat in a way that is close to source. I eat a lot of turkey. I eat I'm committed omnivore. I eat anything and everything. But I eat my vegetables. I don't have this issue about carbs being terrible or whatever. I mean, I love them and I can overdo it with them, but I know how many. I track my food. I've kind of made that a habit that I do. I use an app for that. I can't think of the name of it. Oh, Lose It. I use the Lose It app for tracking my macros. And, I just kind of go at it in a casual way. Any amount, I couldn't do what you do. I'll tell you why. It would trigger me in so many ways. I have a friend, a guy who recently did a show in South Lake Tahoe, and he sent me a list of what he's eating. And I just looked at that and I thought, my God, that would set my head on fire. I would be so triggered by the restrictiveness of it, So my diet, to answer your question shortly, which I know I've already missed that opportunity, is to eat in a way that I can be relaxed about it, get enough nutrition, get enough of the fun foods that I like and want. I know you're a wine specialist. I like a little wine now and then. I like a little gin now and then. I like a little ice cream now and then, but I can fit it into the package or close to it enough. So I color outside the lines more often than I should. And yet I managed to kind of keep myself right where I need to be going into a competition. And it just so happens too that I feel good at this weight. I have a place in my head that says, you should probably really weigh about 25 pounds less than you do. And I have. And when I did, I was really skinny. I didn't have any muscle and I didn't feel skinny. So I thought, but why? But why would you do that? Just, let it be where you're at. They have this other idea that it's no good to resist what is. And apparently it is a fact that my body likes this weight. So why would I bother to resist that? I just need to take care of it and bring it along, right? So that's my diet. Nothing with me is simple. It all has a big, complicated relationship. When my trainer that I had for so many years, she used to crack up and laugh at me. She'd go, my gosh, you have so many layers in your brain. I never met anybody like you that has so many layers of thinking about things. So yeah, I'm an overthinker.
And what about when you were at a meet and you set your first world record? Talk about that experience.
So I did 3 meets the first year in 2019. We were going to go to nationals because you have to go to nationals to set a world record. So we were going to go in 2020, but ... what happened to 2020? It kind of went sideways. So 2021 was the comeback year. 2022, last year, we made it to nationals in Las Vegas. We went to non-tested nationals. So non-tested, I was aiming for 4 world records, but I knew that the bench was a reach. But I did set them, and I had a great day. There was so much about the day that was so exciting. I was completely exhausted. By the time I got to deadlift, I missed my third deadlift and I should have been able to pull it, but I was just gassed. The emotion of it, I don't think I managed my food quite right. It went faster than the pace of the meets that I've been at before. And so I don't think I rested quite like I might have. But what a great accomplishment. So I got a world record for squat, deadlift, and I got the total. So my total that makes me best in the world, and that's in the open powerlifting database, my total is 722. And that is quite a bit more than the person who's second on that list. And I still don't know how I did it. I didn't even pull my heaviest deadlift that day. That deadlift I had done 6 months before in a local meet in Yuba City. I pulled deadlift 358.3. Didn't know how I did that either. Had no idea. I was on my fourth attempt. It was cold. It was so cold that day. Didn't wear enough clothes. Shivered all day. Didn't feel right inside, kind of, digestively. Pulled the third lift and I thought I was done. Cause you think you're done. You're going through a competition and you know how the pace goes. You got 3 lifts. And I'm like, okay, I did that third lift. It was successful. I'm done. And then my coach comes around. He goes, you got another one in you? I go, yeah, sure. So then I did a 180 and I started, amping up again. Went around, got a couple minutes of rest. I don't know what was on the bar either. Cause I kind of have this thing, cause I overthink. I know what my openers are, but I don't know what my second and third lifts are. And I don't want to know, because if I know, then I'll mess it up.
Right.
So I didn't know what was on the bar. I just walked up there and I just did what I do and I just picked it up and bam, 358.3. I'm like, yes. So I don't know. It feels great. It feels like somebody else's life in a way. Such an amazing accomplishment. I'm so proud of myself. My husband talks about me in a way that makes me cry and humbles me. About how dedicated I am and how disciplined I am. So yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
And you're going to be turning 70 in a whole new age category, and
I am.
And that's going to be more records.
More records to set in the 70 to 75. Yeah. In the 2 weight classes. Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. I just turned 65 last year and I do a master's. I'm a master's track and field athlete too. So I'm like, new category. So that's always fun.
Less competition. Hey. Although I have to say there's a lot more than there was even 5 years ago.
Unbelievable.
Isn't it something?
It really is. Before we leave, there was one thing that you said in one of your interviews that I love that I want to share. And you said, I can tell you that it's possible to cry and lift at the same time.
Yep.
It's just emotions like a weather system. It will pass.
Yes.
That really hit home for me, because I get choked up even just talking about it, because there are so many times, I think, in my life, probably in your life, and other women out there, where all you want to do is just cry. And you're just like, for me, being a bodybuilder and being a flight attendant, flying international, it's times I'm overseas and I fly all night. I take a 3-hour nap. I'm dragging myself to the gym. And I sometimes just want to cry. And I'm at the gym and I'm like, oh my God, just get through this. Once I'm done, it's great. But I'm going to put this out and laminate it and stick it on my refrigerator, because it just really sums up everything. It's just like, it's just like a weather system. It's passing through and you'll get through it. I just love that. I thought it was amazing.
Yeah. And resisting it or trying not to just makes it worse. Just move through it. You can literally do practically anything except possibly talk, but maybe even that while crying.
Right.
Yeah. I love it. I love that you love that, because it's so important for me. When I figured that out, life got so much easier. And I move through things pretty fast. I do. I get mad, but I move through it. I get sad. I move through it pretty fast. And that's the thing, isn't it? About coping with life is it's not that you should be happy all the time. That's nonsense. It's that you're going to have all these different feelings. But I think sometimes we have an overly high regard for tears or sadness. It's like, okay, it's, if you have a different regard for it, then it's not so immobilizing. And isn't that the thing, is to be in motion? Not that we shouldn't feel sadness. My God, there are plenty of things to feel sad about. But why would we let it stop us from doing a thing? We don't have to.
That's the $1 million question. You're right.
Yeah, you have a choice.
If people want to follow you on social media or send you a message that you're so inspiring, where can they find you?
The best place is Instagram.
Okay.
I'm Above Average Master on Instagram.
Yes, you are.
My coach's wife gave me that name at my second meet. They're like, "Are you on Instagram?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not very comfortable there. It's brand new." And they said, "We need a cool name." And I'm like, "Well, boy, okay. I have no idea what that would be." And so we got to talking, and she said, "Well, we're talking about what my performance that day. I think I went 7 out of 9 or 8 out of 9." And she goes, "Well, that's above average. Maybe you should be Above Average Master." I'm like, "Okay, perfect. There you go. That's what we're going to call it." So Above Average Master on Instagram. I have Facebook, and there I'm Karen Hurley, KarenCronianHurley. And that's all. I don't have any of the others. That's all I can manage, really.
That's awesome. Well, Karen, thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview. You're an inspiration. You're a light, and your light definitely shines bright. I'm just excited for you. And now that I've found you, I'm definitely going to be cheering you on as you progress.
Helen, thank you so much. I am actually right now madly in love with you and your message, that you take the time and you have a commitment to have women of a certain age know that they can do things, like whatever that thing is. You want to make a quilt? You're afraid to do that? Try it. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't matter what it is. If you just start somewhere.
I agree.
And go for it. Yeah.
I agree. That first step, finding a like-minded community is super important too.
It does help. Yeah. Thank you so much, Helen. This has been a joy.
Thank you so much. And I hope you have a wonderful afternoon.
You too.
Take care.
Bye.
I sure hope you enjoyed this podcast conversation with Karen. One thing that I really loved about Karen's story was that her entire life she was open to possibilities, and she really didn't even realize it. She took her son in for horseback riding lessons and then thought, I think I'd like to try that. So she did. Then when she discovered that she had a passion for horseback riding, she decided that she needed to lose some weight. Not only was she being considerate about the amount of weight that she carried on her horse, but also riding out on the trail, she needed to be able to get on and off the horse from the ground, and that took a lot of strength. So she went to a gym and started to lift weights. And like so many of us when we start something new, she really wasn't sure if she knew, what she was doing, but she was persistent, a quick learner, and became very proficient about lifting weights in the gym. Her trainer eventually moved on to another career, which led her to shop for a new gym, and this is where she was introduced to powerlifting. This is a prime example of having an open mindset. Karen was open to change, to learning, and to growth. She was willing to accept new ideas, challenge existing beliefs and assumptions, and explore new possibilities. On the other hand, someone with a fixed mindset would be resistant to change and maintain a belief that everything is already set in stone and there's no need to do anything different because things won't change. It truly is imperative at this stage in life to be open and receptive to change. Karen is also a huge proponent of being curious. She said, don't be judgmental, be curious. There's less fear when we're curious about something. And this is so true also. A lot of women over 50 hit a crossroad. They're becoming empty nesters, they're going through menopause, so their bodies are changing. Their relationships may be changing. They may be considering retirement. This is where an open mindset is so beneficial. Don't live the second chapter of your life closed up in a hole. This second chapter of our lives should be the best chapter of our lives. So how do we make this happen? Literally by being selfish, by making ourselves happy, becoming stronger through resistance training, by getting rid of inflammation in our bodies by eating cleaner. Clean eating and resistance training for women over 50 is the key to longevity. Did you know that 46% of people over the age of 60 die after a fall? Not because of the fall itself, but because of complications due to poor bone health. Don't be a statistic. You've spent the last 20 to 30 years of your life possibly raising a family or taking care of others. You may even be taking care of your elderly parents right now. How can you take care of your parents and live a life of your dreams if you're not strong? I was just over at my nephew's house yesterday. They have a 3-year-old son, and he wanted me to play with him. Now, he weighs 35 pounds. My great-nephew wanted me to chase him around the house. He wanted me to pick him up and throw him in the air. Did our aunts and uncles chase us around the house and throw us up in the air when we were little? No, they did not. I never saw my aunts or uncles run anywhere. Yet there I was, chasing him around the house and throwing him up in the air umpteen times. And you know what? It brought me so much joy that I was physically able to do all of that. And my nephew and his wife were even amazed at me throwing him up in the air as many times as I did. Eating a clean diet and lifting weights is a game changer. And if you don't want to do it for yourself, then do it for your family. Do it for your grandchildren. Do it for your great nieces and great nephews. I'm planning a trip to Disneyland with my sister and my nephew and his family in a month, and I can't wait to run around the park with them. So thank you, Karen. Thank you for reminding us that it's never too late to start something new and to be open and receptive to new things. No one ever said it was going to be easy. Karen did say that it was possible to cry and lift weights at the same time, and I can attest to that. Now, I want to close with a statement that she made, which I absolutely loved. She said, "Set a table and continue to let people show up." Again, an open mindset of allowing the universe to help you live your best life. Bravo, Karen. Bravo. Now, if you want to follow Karen for more inspiration, you can find her on Instagram at Above Average Master. She's turning 70 in just a few months, and she plans on breaking more local, national, and world records. So I can't wait to see her accomplish all of those goals. You can find me at www.ageisirrelevant.com, and you can email me at helen@ageisirrelevant.com. If you like this podcast, please leave a review and 5 stars on iTunes. That would be amazing. Reviews like that will definitely help me spread the word. And if you want to get started into fitness, but you're not really sure where to check out things, you can go to my website. I do have some free workouts on there. I do have some programs on there that you might be interested in. I actually have a 6-week macro through menopause program that's a little bit more intense and a little more personal. Don't leave this world with any regrets. Set goals. Start small and progress slowly. Find like-minded people who will help you achieve your goals. I never thought at age 65 that I would be a professional masters bodybuilder. I have so many more things on my bucket list to check off before I check out of this world. So let's do it all together. And until next time, don't ever forget, age truly is irrelevant. Bye-bye.